Part 3. Questions 21 to 35. In this part, you will hear 3 talks or lectures. There are 5 questions for each talk or lecture. For each question, choose the correct answer A, B, C or D. You will hear the talks or lectures only once. Questions 21 to 25.
You will hear a talk about learning a language.
I want to talk about learning languages. I want to talk about learning languages. I've lived in many different countries, both in Western Europe, Middle East, and now here in Hong Kong. And during all of that time, I've learned 5 or 6 different languages to one degree or another. I love learning languages. Not only are they important when you move to a country, I just find them fascinating. Before I came to Hong Kong, I lived in Barcelona, Spain for 10 years. And when I first arrived, the most important thing was being able to communicate with people locally. I don't attend classes. I don't think I'm particularly good in classes. I prefer to learn by just talking to people, finding out what I need to say by looking at dictionaries and listening carefully. Other things that helped me when I first moved to Spain were watching the typical kinds of programs we see every day on channels around the world. For example, the weather. This is great because they always say the same things, so you can really quickly hear the same words repeated again and again, and the pictures help, of course. Other types of program that helped me learn Spanish quickly were things like game shows, where the same thing happens. They have a catchphrase or a slogan that they repeat endlessly when contestants win or when they're called to compete. As well as that, I used to pick up the Spanish newspapers. First of all, I just accepted there was no way I was going to understand anything but 1 or 2 words. But gradually, I found that I learned lots of new things about this. I was interested because I wanted to know what was happening in the country I lived in. But I also knew that I could learn a lot of language this way. So I'd take a dictionary with me sometimes, or I'd notice a word and I'd ask other people what it meant. Anyway, by far the best practice I ever had was just talking to people in the street or in shops, where I'd rehearse in my head what I wanted to say beforehand before I went in. Usually, I made a right mess of it first of all, but after you get over the embarrassment, it's quite funny really, and people are very sympathetic and supporting in most cases. It took me a long time to develop a good level of Spanish. I lived there for 10 years, and I think I'm very fluent now. But I think for the first 2 years that I was there, it was quite a struggle to hold a decent conversation. There were always lots of words and expressions that I didn't pick up on. In particular were the colloquial expressions, idioms, that kind of thing, that people use in everyday talk, but you don't necessarily see written down. I didn't find those very easy to learn at all. But it was a lot of fun, and people, as I said, are really supporting when they know that you're genuinely interested in learning their language.
Dr. Miller, professor of sociology at Washington University, has written. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for today's plenary address, Dr. Howard Miller. Dr. Miller, professor of sociology at Washington University, has written numerous articles and books on the issues facing older Americans in our graying society for the past 15 years. Dr. Miller?
Thank you for that introduction. Today I'd like to preface my remarks from a story from my own life, which I feel highlights our common concerns that bring us here together. Several years ago, when my grandparents were well into their 80s, they were faced with the reality of no longer being able to adequately care for themselves. My grandfather spoke of his greatest fear, that of leaving the only home they had known for the past 60 years. Fighting back the tears, he spoke proudly of the fact that he had built their home from the ground up, and that he had pounded every nail and laid every brick in the process. The prospect of having to sell their home and give up their independence and move into a retirement home was an extremely traumatic experience for them. It was, in my grandfather's own words, like having a limb severed off. He was quite emphatic, exclaiming that he felt he wasn't important anymore. For them and some older Americans, their so-called golden years are at times not so pleasant, for this period can mean the decline of not only one's health, but the loss of identity and self-worth. In many societies, this self-identity is closely related with our social status, occupation, material possessions, or independence. Furthermore, we often live in societies that value that which is new or in vogue, and our own usage of lexicon in the English language often does not bode well for older Americans. I mean, how would your family react if you came home tonight elated, exclaiming, "Hey, come to the living room and see the old black and white TV I brought"? Unfortunately, the word old conjures up images of the need to replace or discard. Now, many of the lectures given at this conference have focused on the issues of pension reform, medical care, and the development of public facilities for senior citizens. And while these are vital issues that must be addressed, I'd like to focus my comments on an underlying issue that will affect the overall success of the other programs mentioned. This has to do with realigning our perspectives on what it means to be part of this group and finding meaningful roles the elderly can play and should play in our societies. First of all, I'd like to talk about
Carnival in London.
Yeah. Woo!
And the Edinburgh Festival. I'm going to talk about British festivals. I'm sure you've heard about the Notting Hill Carnival in London.
Yeah. Woo!
And the Edinburgh Festival. But today, we're going to look at a lot more that you might not know about. Actually, a lot of these are not exactly festivals, but strange races or competitions. Some of them are ancient and some are modern. So, let's start in January in the north of Scotland with the burning of the Clavey. This is a whiskey barrel which is set alight, then carried through the streets as a bonfire. It's an ancient tradition which always takes place on the 11th of January, the first day of the year, according to an older form of the calendar. The bonfire brings good luck for the coming year, and people used to keep bits of burnt wood as protection against evil spirits. At the end of January, even further north, in the Shetland Islands, there's another fire festival, the Up Helly Ah. This seems like an ancient festival, but has actually only been going for about 130 years. Well, it is fairly old, I suppose. People carry firelit torches and a Viking boat through the streets, then set fire to the boat. There's lots of dancing. It's good fun. Now, to the north of England. On Shrove Tuesday in February, otherwise known as Pancake Day, a special pancake bell is rung in Scarborough. Everyone goes down to the road next to the beach where they skip. Yep, they jump over long ropes, up to 15 people to one rope.
Whoa.
And they have pancake races. This is quite common in the UK, running with a frying pan and tossing a pancake at the same time. Another kind of race takes place in spring, cheese rolling. In Gloucestershire, in the southwest of England, round cheeses in round boxes are sent rolling down a hill, and people run after them and try and catch them. The hill is very steep, so people often fall over. If you take part in this, you need to be very fit and wear your oldest jeans. Nowadays, this strange custom attracts visitors from all over the world, but the people from the local village are usually the ones who catch the cheese. From people racing to animals, very tiny animals. World Championship snail racing takes place in a village in Norfolk. The snails have to race from an inner circle to an outer circle, and the winner gets a lot of lettuce. There's a party and barbecue for the snail owners and observers. This custom began in the 1960s after a local man saw something similar in France. In the UK, we don't eat snails, by the way.
Part 3. Questions 21 to 35. In this part, you will hear 3 talks, lectures or conversations. The talks, lectures or conversations will not be repeated. There are 5 questions for each talk, lecture or conversation. For each question, choose the right answer. A, B, C or D. Questions 21 to 25 refer to the following professor's lecture. First, take some time to read the questions 21 to 25.
Hey class, I want to talk to you about the Cold War today. Now, the Cold War wasn't just... Okay class, I want to talk to you about the Cold War today. Now, the Cold War wasn't just one single war. It was actually a long time of aggression. It lasted about 50 years. Anyway, the Cold War was mainly between the US and the USSR. That was Russia's old name. They had different opinions on just about everything. Oh, and Joseph Stalin, who we have talked about before, was the leader of the USSR at the start of the Cold War. Anyway, there was a lot of suspicion during the Cold War, but the US and the USSR never actually fought each other. This is because both countries had nuclear weapons, so they were afraid of each other. They didn't want to destroy the whole world, and that might have happened if they'd fought each other. But instead of fighting, they showed their different opinions by competing with each other. For example, they made their militaries bigger, and they raced each other to see who could get a person in space first. Stuff like that. But a lot of the problems were political. The two countries were very different, and so they couldn't get along. This is what caused the Cold War. Like Surratt, but very few people can. Okay, yesterday we read about Georges Seurat. Now, many people would like to paint like Seurat, but very few people can. He invented a very precise way of painting. It looks different and is hard to do because it is so exact. There were various styles of painting, but Seurat decided to make a different one. The first difference was that Seurat took a lot of time to prepare before he painted. He planned his paintings very carefully. He made many drawings to decide on the best way to reproduce the scene. He worked for many hours before he started to paint. With this style, you have to have a clear purpose. With other styles at this time, they had very little time to prepare. Now, the second difference was that he used pure colors. He understood that the eye would blend the colors. He knew that if he painted red next to yellow, the eye would see orange, okay?
Why didn't he just mix the paints like other artists? Wouldn't that have been easier?
Yes, but using pure colors made the painting very bright. These paintings don't look bright in books, but when you see them in person, wow, they are great. Now, as you know, the biggest difference was that Seurat didn't use brush strokes. He painted tiny dots, one at a time. Millions and millions of dots, and some of his paintings were very big. Can you imagine how long this took? One painting took 2 years. Of course, that didn't mean that Seurat was a better painter. All the well-known painters back then were very good and made beautiful paintings. But Seurat was very proud of his different way of painting. He felt that this new style represented people and nature very well.
Questions 31 to 35.
Today we're going to talk about snakes. Can you imagine eating a snake? Me neither. But there are creatures that do. This is a problem for snakes. So, how do they solve this problem? They have to protect themselves. Let's look at 3 types of snakes: the rattlesnake, spitting cobra, and hognose snake. They all have unique ways of protecting themselves. The rattlesnake solves this problem in a unique way. You see, rattlesnakes are born with small beads on their tails. As an average snake gets older, it grows more beads. These beads rub together and make a rattling sound. Okay, so when does the rattlesnake make this noise? When it thinks an animal might attack it. It cannot shield itself, so it tries to scare the creature by rattling its tail. The spitting cobra has another way to protect itself. What does it do? It sprays poison from its mouth, okay? But the snake doesn't just spray it anywhere. No, it sprays it into the eyes of the creature that is attacking it. This is very effective because eyes are sensitive. The spray stops the creature from seeing, and the snake gets away. Next, we have the hognose snake. It's less aggressive. So what does it do? The hognose snake plays dead. That's right. It will twist and roll like it's dying. Then it will lie still on its back. The snake will even hang its tongue out of its mouth. Can you believe that? So by playing dead, it actually survives.
China has ended its decades-long one-child policy to allow all couples to have 2 children. The ruling Communist Party of China made the announcement on Thursday. The one-child policy, officially called the Family Planning Policy, was a population control measure that was introduced in 1979. Policymakers hoped to restrict the country's surging population and therefore control rates of poverty. It wasn't adhered to strictly, and many exceptions were allowed. In 2007, around 36% of China's population was subject to a strict one-child restriction. An additional 53% was allowed to have a second child if the first child was a girl. The new 2-child policy will reverse China's very low fertility rate. The new two-child policy is expected to provide a huge economic boost for China and prevent it from developing into an aging society. China's labor force reached a peak of 940 million in 2012. However, this decreased to 930 million in 2014 and was expected to fall by another 29 million by 2020. Predictions from Peking University are that there will be an average of 2.5 million extra newborns per year. This will result in more workers and an additional $11.8 billion in annual consumption. Shares in many international baby goods companies jumped by over 10% after the news was announced. The new policy will affect around 100 million couples.
This is the listening test for levels from 3 to 5 of the Vietnam 6-level language proficiency test. There are 3 parts to the test. You will hear each part once. For each part of the test, there will be time for you to look through the questions and time for you to check your answers. Write your answers on the question paper. You will have 5 minutes at the end of the test to transfer your answer. Choose the correct answer A, B, C.
What is John going to do tonight? Hello, Mrs. Brown. Is John...
Listen carefully.
Look at question 1. What is John going to do tonight? Hello, Mrs. Brown. Is John there? No, he's out on his bicycle at the moment. Oh. Can he go swimming tonight? Sorry, Paul. He's got a football match tonight. Two. Which bag does the woman buy?
I want to buy a present for Diana.
What about a bag?
Yes, this one's nice. It's small and round.
I think she'd prefer a square bag.
No, this is better. I'll get the round one.
3. How much did the woman pay for the apples?
Can I help you?
Yes, I'd like a pound of apples, please.
Do you want the ones at 30 pence, 35 pence, or 40 pence?
The ones at 30 pence, please. 4. When must the boys get on the coach?
The football match starts at 2:30, but we should get there at 1:30. The coach will pick us up at 10 to 1, as it'll take us about 40 minutes to drive there. So we'll meet in the school car park. Don't be late, boys, will you?
5. What fruit do they take?
Mum, have we got any fruit to take on the picnic? There were some oranges and bananas.
Here are the bananas. Let's take those. Oh, the oranges have all gone. What about taking some grapes or apples as well?
Okay, let's take the grapes. That'll be enough.
6. Which present has the man bought?
Is the book in this bag for Mum, then? I didn't think she was particularly interested in flowers.
I thought she'd like it, to give her some good ideas for the garden. And even if she never reads it, it's got some lovely photos.
I thought you were going to get those gloves I showed you in that shop last Saturday. They match the scarf I've bought her.
7. Where are the photographs?
Have you seen my new passport photographs? I put them on the bookshelf. Oh, here they are, with your coffee cups. I hope they aren't dirty.
Oh, sorry. I was showing them to Pat. He says they make you look like that newsreader on the television.
8. What did Ben break? Ben, what's this broken cup doing here?
Oh, sorry, Mum. I had an accident when I was washing up. You know those big dinner plates?
You haven't broken them as well.
Oh, just a couple. They slipped out of my hands into the sink, and the cup got broken as well.
That is the end of part 1. Now turn to part 2. You will hear 3 different conversations. In each conversation there are 4 questions. For each question, choose the correct answer A, B, C, or D. You will hear the conversations only.
No, how about 3 pounds of hamburger and a couple
Now we are ready to start. Listen carefully.
Dave, I'm going to the supermarket to pick up food and drink for Saturday's picnic later. Any suggestions?
Well, everyone's been talking about having a barbecue down by the river, so why don't you pick up some hamburger and hot dogs?
Okay, but how much hamburger meat are we going to need? And hot dogs too?
I don't know. How about 3 pounds of hamburger and a couple packages of hot dogs?
Oh, that's not going to be enough. Do you remember the last picnic we went on? Your roommate Jim ate about 10 hamburgers by himself.
You're right. Let's see. I better write this down. Let's see, about 9 pounds of hamburger meat and 7 packages of hot dogs.
And you better pick up some chicken for those who don't like hamburger or hot dogs.
Okay, how about 5 or 6 bags of potato chips?
Better make that 8 or so.
All right. Oh, and we're going to need some hamburger and hot dog buns. How about 5 packages apiece? I think that sounds about right.
Yeah, you better pick up some mustard, ketchup, and mayonnaise too.
Okay, what else? We're going to need some soft drinks. How about 10 of those big 2-liter bottles?
Sounds fine, but be sure to buy a variety of drinks.
Okay, and what about dessert?
Well, maybe we could ask Kathy to make a few cherry pies like she did last time.
Well, I wouldn't mind that, but you know she's been very busy working 2 jobs, so I'd hate to ask her. And hey, why don't you whip up some of your oatmeal cookies?
Well,
hey, you could even ask, what's her name? Yeah, the new girl, Susan, the one that moved across the street.
Well,
I bet she'd be willing to help you.
I don't know.
She's a real knockout.
Nah, I don't think I could ask her. I don't know her phone number. Plus...
Hey, you don't need to. She's at the door.
What do you mean?
Well, I thought you two would hit it off, so I called her up saying I was you, and I invited her over to watch a movie.
You did what?
Wait.
Now open your questions paper and look at conversation 2. You now have 25 seconds to look through the questions and the options in each question.
Scrub the bathtub.
No.
Now we are ready to start. Listen carefully.
Can I go outside to play?
Well, did you get your Saturday's work done?
Aw, Dad, do I have to?
Well, you know the rules. No playing until the work is done.
So what is my work?
Well, first you have to clean the bathroom, including the toilet. And don't forget to scrub the bathtub.
No, I want to do the family room.
Well, okay, but you have to vacuum the family room and the hall. And be sure to dust everything. Oh, and don't forget to wipe the walls and clean the baseboards.
Okay.
And after that...
Oh, no.
Next, sweep and mop the kitchen floor.
No, license. To start.